Welcome back to One Stop Central. I'm your host, Kyle,
Mike Barker.
and these are our guests.
I'm Chris Ramirez.
I'm Ayden Lutes.
So, fellas, tell us why you're here. We're here to talk about.
So I was sitting in my bed one day eating too much food before wrestling season started, and I got a text from Michael, and he said, "Hey, you want to come on One Stop Central?" And I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Central Times." And so I was tired, but I was like, I guess that'd be cool. So I said, "Yeah, let's talk about wrestling." So now I'm here with my best friend, Chris Ramirez.
Sounds about right.
And there was no blackmail involved or anything.
Definitely zero, none. There was no blackmail involved.
Blink twice if you need help. All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about wrestling? I'm sure everyone knows the idea of the sport, but people don't really know what you do in wrestling, I guess.
Okay. So wrestling, the way the way we explained it is, it's the most physical high school sport you can get into. Very physical, very competitive. And not only is it very physical, but it's also very mentally draining. So it's a really tough sport, and especially if you want to be one of the good guys. But you learn a lot from it. So.
Yeah, and because it's tough, it makes it that much more rewarding. So the toughness is really high, but the satisfaction you get is really high also.
Yeah. So the toughest guys in the school would you guys say you're probably the best wrestlers on the team, or what are your guys' expertise on the wrestling team at the moment?
Obviously wrestling's an individual sport, as you know. It's 1v1, right?
Yeah.
But I have tried to get away from the aspect of like ranking people in the team, because obviously you're competitive with your teammates, right? But at the end of the day, you win a duel as a team, you lose a duel as a team. And really the only part where it's really individual is when it comes down to the end of the year at the state series, but even then there's a team state. So I think you can look at stats, you can look at rankings, and deduce who you want is the best, but I think this year as a team, I think we're all on a very high level. Almost all of us made it to sectionals, and we had 4 guys make it to state, so our team is very talented this year, and I don't want to say who's the best, who's better. Obviously, we're seniors, we're in varsity, we've been around the block a few times, but you ask any upperclassmen in there, and they're ready to brawl, they're ready to go out and rip some heads off.
Yeah. Chop that wood.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about it yesterday. We were talking about how all of us come from very different places. We all start our careers very differently, but we're actually at a very similar level now with very similar goals. So, like Luke just said, it's a team. Even though it's individual, we're still teammates, and we're not comparing each other, but just helping each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are some of the things you guys do within the wrestling club? Like tournament-wise, do you guys fly out of state to go wrestle in any major tournaments, or what does a classic wrestling season look like for you guys?
I'll let you go with this one.
All right. So for now, last year was a little weird, a little goofy because of COVID.
You call it that. Yeah.
But now we're back to normal season. We have plenty of tournaments. We have tournaments, we have duels, we have quads. Duels are the ones where we go usually against just one-on-one schools. We'll get to turn on the spotlight, have the varsity walk out with a walkout song. It's really cool. Quads is against 4 teams, or we'll have mega duels with more than one team. Or we'll have tournaments, whether it's in here. Sometimes we go out of state. Like I think this year we have Muhammad. And for that, we take an overnight trip. And at the end of the year, we also do Florida. We'll fly out not the whole team, but we'll fly out a group of guys.
Everybody who's serious.
Yeah, everyone who's serious gets to go to Florida and wrestle up there. And also have some fun.
Disneyland in
Disneyland.
Florida.
Oh,
Disneyland.
wow.
Yeah. So you're in the park for 6 days. This is an all-season tournament, by the way. This is during the summer.
Yeah.
Just to make that clear. But it's 6 days in Florida, and it's a national championship, so there's probably there's like 6 divisions with 100 teams each, so it's 4 days of just non-stop wrestling, and then you get a day of fun at the end. So we do a lot, and then there's a lot of off-season opportunities. People go to Fargo every year for a big national championship. I was just in Des Moines for preseason nationals, and that's not necessarily the team, but there's a lot of opportunities that get plugged in through it that a lot of people like to go to.
So Disneyland and nonstop wrestling. If you need another reason to join, I
Yeah.
guess.
What more do you need, guys? Like, come on.
So with wrestling, what does like the practices look like?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So-
it's the rest of it's amazing, and then the practice is.
I feel like that's like every sport, but
Yeah.
it's weird because, like, I think kind of last year we did them a little bit differently than most
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Last year it was more. We were a smaller team last year just because there were more sports going on at once. So practices became a lot more individualized, and you didn't get to do your own thing, but there was kind of structured around like what the team really needed. As opposed to a year like this, I think more than half our team is freshmen, and half of those freshmen are first years. So it's a lot about going back to the basics, but which is really good because there are still basic things that I struggle with, and I'm sure Chris can say that too. There's still basic things that I struggle with, but really, it's actually you want to walk through your practice?
Yeah, so now with the normal season, it's pretty structured. We have like set schedules and everything. We'll do for the varsity guys, for the older guys, we'll do morning practices, whether it's conditioning or lifting, and then afterwards, an actual practice where the whole team is, we'll either split up the room into like the freshmen and then the varsity and other seniors like on the other side, or we'll stay all together depending on what it is that we're doing. Sometimes we'll play games. We're doing teams this year, so we'll have team captains with their teams. We'll play games, keep points and all that. But yeah, whether it's technique or conditioning, we have a set schedule for it now. So yeah.
You said captains. Who are the captains this year?
We haven't made teams yet, like
Yeah.
officially, but we know a few of the guys that are going to be captains. Me, Lutes included. I know Tommy Porter is going to be a captain. And I'm not sure who the other ones are going to be yet.
Interesting. So DVC, how does that kind of formulate? I remember being in the wrestling club, and that was like one of the big things you aspire to get to throughout the normal season, right? What's beyond DVC, or how does that kind of work out, or some of these bigger tournaments?
So DVC, obviously, like that's the conference tournament, right? The official start of the postseason competition. DVC, it's always a goal. Unfortunately, the DVC split up, I think, 6 or 7 years ago, and since then, the DVC now is not as good as a wrestling conference as it used to be. Obviously, there's DeKalb, who is always ranked top 5 in the state, and then there's us, who are usually in the top 15. And then North has a couple good guys. Matei and Nequa always have a couple good guys, but it's nothing like the Chicago Catholic League, where 7 of the top 10 teams in the state are in that. But it's a big deal. I know every year I'm always trying to win a DVC title. I won a junior varsity one, never won a varsity DVC title, and I come close, but never there. But that is definitely a big goal I want to get this year. But really after that, it's the state series. So I know the IHSA does it different for sports, but for us we have a regional tournament, and if you make it out of regionals, you go to sectionals. If you make it out of sectionals, you go to state, and obviously state's the big dance, yeah. And then from there, it's really just it's all gas, no brakes at that point. But at the same time, you really want to save your body, because that's the time you need to show. Usually, once we start going into regionals, we stop doing morning practices, just because you want to keep your legs fresh. You're really not going to get any stronger there. You want to stay injury-free. Even though you got to cut weight, you want to try and stay as nourished as possible. And really, it's just, all focus. And at that point, it really becomes a mental game. There's a lot of kids who get burnt out or don't care, or just, they're tired of cutting weight, they're tired of working out, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, it's really who's worked out the hardest and who's the most mentally fortified. And if you're both of those things, you'll make a good run at state.
Yeah. Just going back to like DVC and everything, it's not like, obviously those are the big tournaments, DVC and then the state tournament, but it's not everything, because during the season we'll wrestle the teams in our DVC, and that's, whether you win or lose, that's what will affect your seeding, and that can be very important depending on your tournament and in the long run. This year I get my first shot at a DVC title for the varsity level. That's pretty exciting. And yeah, for the state run, it goes the same. Whether you win or lose your matches, it'll affect your seeding in regionals, and yeah, in the long run, it'll help out a lot.
So we kind of been going over some generalities of wrestling. We kind of want to now focus in a bit more on you guys. What has been like your best memory with wrestling that you think really defined the sport for you right now?
When I took down Chris like 10 times in
It's
practice.
never happened before.
I'll let him go first. I'll let him field this one.
My favorite memory from
Mhm.
wrestling? Man, it's hard to pick because there's so many important and key moments throughout the whole sport. I wish I could pick one, but I don't think I can. Just overall, like the teammates, the coaches are great. The teammates are awesome. And then competing is a reward as well.
What's
Because
like a good story that like narrows down? Like it doesn't have to be your favorite.
I'll give you a good story, a
Yeah.
good wrestling
Alright,
story.
yeah.
So one time we were gonna go to a off-season tournament in Wisconsin, and it was my first off-season tournament, and it was pretty close to season, so I needed to get down to weight eventually anyway. But I was still over by like 7 pounds or so. So I just remember I was talking with Lutes and some of the other guys that were seniors last year, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm over by like 3 pounds, 2 pounds," and I was like, "Dude, I still have like 7 pounds." So just the days where you have to throw on a sauna suit, go on the treadmill, run, stare at a wall, and just pound by pound, I got it down to weight. On the ride there, all I was thinking about was food. I was so hungry, so thirsty. And yeah, it's just, those really tough moments that at the end not only make you mentally tougher a lot, but also just makes you feel rewarded, because then made weight, had a good tournament, it was fun. And yeah, just the cutting weight is a huge thing in wrestling. So a lot of stories from that.
Yeah, it sounds like a big commitment to like really cut the weight, because I hear a lot of wrestlers all the time complain about cutting weight. Like, what's that like? Because does it mean like you just can't eat for a day essentially?
I wish. There's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, depending on how much you're over by or so. Like right now, we've been dieting to try to get down as much as we can, try to get as lean as possible before we start cutting off water completely or whatever it is, dehydrating ourselves. So basically you start getting as lean as you can. This is the right way to cut weight. You get as lean as you can first. Make sure you start doing it like a couple weeks, maybe a month even before season. And then once you're like 5 or you're like 4 pounds away from weight about, or a good amount from weight, then you can start wearing sweats to practice.
And by good amount, he doesn't mean like a sizable amount. He means within a few pounds.
Yeah,
That's
within
what
a
he
few
means.
pounds, yeah. Something that's doable. Wear sweats to practice one day. After you're done with practice, weigh in. If you're close or if you're under, either weigh your food, make sure you're not going over or anything, or just suck it up until weigh-ins. Yeah.
Do you have any good stories?
I mean, everybody's got those stories about like winning the close match or whatever, and like bringing home the team title. But something that I think I had the most fun is that this was sophomore year, and our Coach Fitz, was going to send us a text before regional started, because at the end of the season, he talks with everybody one-on-one a lot, because he says, hey, like, this is the most individual part of the year, like, what can I do for you, how can I help you, like, if you're nervous, let me know, if you're excited, let me know, like, just talk to him, right? And it was going into regionals, and we're against Marmion, and Marmion always has a very good team, and there's this kid named Walter Green, and Walter Green, stud, great wrestler. And he beat me my freshman year pretty bad. He majored me. Yeah, he beat me like by 10 points, which is quite a bit in wrestling. And I was on my phone, and Fitz texts me. He's like, "You feel ready for tomorrow?" And I was like excited because this was my first time I was ever varsity on postseason competition, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he sends me an emoji, or not like an emoji, but like a GIF of like the America dude like swinging a flag. He's like, "Let's do this!" And like it was just so funny. And I didn't beat him that day, but I had a really good run. And it's nice when you have coaches that when everything gets so serious that you can stay lighthearted. And you don't really have to focus on wrestling as much, and it helps you turn it on and turn it off, and it really makes you want to do it more when you don't have to worry about it or think about it all the time. So that's probably been one of the most fun moments. Just that GIF I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And the coaches are awesome. It's funny because they're all very different from each other, but they're all fun to talk to. They all know what to do. They know when they have to be serious, and overall very good staff. That's why we're always one of the top teams.
Interesting. Do you have any more questions?
That about sums it up for me.
All right, so why don't you guys give a little blurb and then we'll cut it off.
I'll say my 2 cents. So first of all, if you're interested in joining wrestling, practice has started, but no worries. We got a lot of kids who join late, so go talk to Mr. Fitzenrider or Mr. Porter or Mr. Roth. Those 3 guys, they can help you. And if you're interested, come to the auxiliary gym after school. Talk to them. We'll get you set up. No worries. It's never too late to join. But really, wrestling is, we like to call it, I don't like the word family because I think family is a little cliche. I like to use the word brotherhood. Wrestling is definitely brotherhood. And it changes me. It has changed me so much. I know, like, you get a lot of these cliche messages from sports, like, oh, it makes you grow as a person, makes you do this, makes you go blah, blah, blah. But I think wrestling really translates into life, just the aspect of discipline and just going after something. It's great. It's awesome. And on top of that, you get to beat the heck out of some kids, and then you get rewarded for beating the heck out of kids. Like, nowhere does that happen in high school. So if you're interested, please join. Any experience is welcome. I'd love to see more people in the room. And I mean, obviously, if you see me in the hallways, don't feel afraid to ask. I may look mean, but I'm a nice guy. I promise.
He's like 5 foot.
Yeah, no, I'm really short, so I don't think you'll be intimidated. But yeah, join wrestling and go Hawks.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you're thinking about joining wrestling, as a 17-year-old boy, there's a lot of things that I've made a lot of mistakes, but something I'll never regret is joining wrestling. I've learned a ton from it. Not only has it helped me physically, but also mentally, like Lutes was saying, the discipline aspect to it, and it translates very well into the rest of your life. And yeah, you get to meet some awesome people, and if you're worried about maybe it's too late for you to join, maybe you haven't done it before, and now you're in high school, no, it's definitely not too late. I didn't start taking it seriously until sophomore year, and yeah, now I'm at where I'm at. So definitely, yeah, if you're thinking about joining, join it. You have nothing to lose.
Mm.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the
thanks.
show.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys next time on One Stop Central.